what's up, guys? I'm going to be doing my predictions for UFC Live, Hardy versus Lytle. First fight I'm going to be talking about is actually a prelim fight. The fight is Joseph Benavidez versus Eddie Wineland. Benavidez is coming off a win against Ian Loveland. He has some wins over some tough guys like Miguel Torres, Ronnie Yaya, Jeff Curran, Wagner Fabiano. His only two losses have come to Dominic Cruz, and he's the current champ. So 3 of his last 4 wins have been by submission or TKO. But Eddie Wineland is 18-7, and he's coming off a loss to Uriah Faber. He's a tough guy. He's never been KO'd, but he has 4 losses by submission. Eddie was doing a pretty good job at first in his fight with Uriah Faber and not getting taken down. But when the fight kind of went on a little longer, he started to get taken down a little bit more, and that's kind of what ended up losing him the fight. Because if he could have kept it standing, I think he was a little bit a better striker than Uriah. I'm sure Uriah will be helping Joseph train for this fight, seeing as they're teammates. What I think is going to happen is Benavidez is going to go in, trying for the takedown. He won't be successful at first. Maybe, he'll probably start getting it in the later rounds when Eddie starts to get tired. I see Benavidez winning by either a 3rd-round submission or a decision. But he's going to have to be careful because Eddie Wineland has some KO power. He's finished 15 of his 18 opponents, and Benavidez has finished 11 of his last 14. So this should be a pretty interesting fight. The next fight I'm going to talk about is Amir Sadal versus Duane Ludwig. Not a really big fan of either one of these guys, really. The way I see this match going is Amir using his always improving Muay Thai skills to pick Duane apart. You know, he might throw in a couple of takedowns. Duane Ludwig's fought a huge list of really good guys. Jim Miller, Yves Edwards, Takanori Gomi, Paul Daly, Josh Thompson, BJ Penn, Tyson Griffin, and Jens Palver. Every single one of those guys has finished him, except for Jens and Yves, who he managed to beat. I see Amir winning this by a 2nd-round TKO and ending Duane's UFC days. I think the UFC is trying to build Amir a little bit, but I don't see him getting a title shot anytime soon. There's also the chance that Duane could KO Amir, because it has happened before with Johnny Hendricks. I'm really excited for this next fight. I'm a big fan of both guys. You know, I've seen Cerrone's last 10 fights. I'm always excited when this guy fights, even though Charles has only had a couple of fights in the UFC. I've really enjoyed all of them. I think he's a possible future champ, but I also think he should fight at 145. I think the UFC gave him Jim Miller for his 3rd fight, and that was too much too soon, but he'll definitely be a future star. This fight will be a tough one to call. They both have really good ground games. I think Cerrone's a little bit better striker. He has good kicks, but Charles is a little faster. I think they're mostly going to stand and strike with each other. One of them might go for a takedown if the rounds are close. Cerrone trains at Greg Jackson's, so he'll probably have a pretty good game plan for this one. The way I see this going is Cerrone using his size and Muay Thai skills to get himself a UD, but who knows? After Oliveira's last fight, he might be motivated and ready to send a message to the lightweight division. Jim Miller versus Ben Henderson. Hopefully this is going to be an awesome fight. Love watching both guys fight. Jim's 20-2. He's on a 7-fight win streak in the UFC. I think he really deserves a title shot. Ben Henderson's coming off a win against Mark Bocek. You know, he's a tough guy. He's had some really memorable fights in the WEC against some really good guys. Jim Miller's fought some really, really good guys too. He's 22, and both his one loss is to Frankie and 1 loss is to Gray. So I think they're both pretty good strikers, about equal. Jim has the definite advantage in submissions, but the only way he's going to get Ben is by a choke, because Ben's practically impossible to get with those limp submissions. In the end, I see Jim using his pace to outwork Ben a little bit for a split decision or a close unanimous decision. But if Ben does manage to get the win, I say he either fights Clay Guida, or if Melvin Guard wins, he fights him for a possible title shot. Dan Hardy versus Chris Lytle. I think this fight is going to be awesome. I'm a huge Dan Hardy fan, and when was the last time Chris Lytle had a boring fight? The guy went into his last fight against Ebersol with a torn meniscus. He just doesn't give a shit. He just wants to make the fans happy, even though it meant giving up his winning streak. If Dan Hardy loses this fight, he's most likely going to get cut, which kind of sucks, seeing as he's such a great personality in the UFC. Dan Hardy's back is against the wall, and I think we'll see the return of the Dan Hardy that KO'd Rory Markham and beat Marcus Davis, Mike Swick, and Akihiro Gono. This is going to be a stand-up war, with Dan Hardy winning a split decision, I think. And I'm sure Lytle could easily take him down if he wanted to and possibly go for a submission. But Chris Lytle isn't going to pull a bitch move like that and do what Anthony Johnson kind of did against Hardy, even though he said he was going to stand with him. I think this is going to be the fight of the night, but so could all the fights on this card. Lytle's a former boxer, some really good stand-up, and Hardy has some pretty good stand-up skills himself, and he never quits. This fight is going to be really cool, I think. It's really kind of a coin flip who's going to win. Thanks for listening. That's all I have to say. If you want me to change anything, just tell me any recommendations or tips. Thanks.